11 o'clock, we will begin. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So, good morning again, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.
It is wonderful to be with you this morning. Of course, I have some announcements. The first is that yesterday I spoke to Swami Dhyana Yogananda, the head of the Trabuco Monastery, where Swami Yogeshananda is spending his last days. His condition is essentially unchanged from the last time you heard. He goes in and out of what we would call ordinary waking consciousness, but spends much time on what the death researchers call the other side. And he's having experiences of some things on the other side. He sometimes speaks to people that can't otherwise be seen and so on. But he seems to be comfortable and in good spirits. So all of you who love Swami Yogeshananda may know that he is in good spirits. This call to Dhyana Yoganandaji was prompted by a message I received, an email message, about a vision during meditation that a devotee had of Swami Uwai, which was very sweet and very profound. So the devotee wrote an email to me about it. And the question in the devotee's mind was, did this mean that the Swami had passed on? So I called Dhyana Yogananda and found out what I just told you, that indeed he is not always with us in ordinary consciousness, but still embodied and reasonably comfortable and in good spirits. So that's the news of Swami Yogeshananda and of Swami Dhyana Yogananda. Just a little bit of other news from Trabuco. Those of you who remember Dante, who became Deva when he took initiation and was living at Trabuco, has returned to his family in Atlanta. He submitted a letter of resignation. So perhaps we will see him either online or perhaps he'll come by here. In any event, that's Dhyana Yogananda himself and Trabuco are all doing well. So here's our center's announcements. Holy Mother's Helping Hands, your center's annual effort to provide food and warm clothing for the less fortunate, starts today. Our food drive is in cooperation with the Atlanta Community Food Bank. This year, we will not be collecting food here at the center. Each week's e-news and our website and Facebook page will have a link and details on how to offer your donation through the center's registry, our account, with the Atlanta Community Food Bank. With regard to your donations of warm winter clothing, there will be a clothes rack on the monastery sun porch. As we have done every year, the gifts you leave with us will be passed on to a local church. They have a large clothes closet and invite the homeless to drop by and find things they like and need. So if you have warm clothing and anything that you'd like to donate to help the homeless and less fortunate in that sense, you can drop it by here. Please do not bring any food. As I said, the instructions for how to cooperate in that way will be in your e-news and on the website. Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day, we are going to host an open house on Zoom from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 26th, Thanksgiving Day. Your center will host an online open house via Zoom. You can log in and drop by for some holiday conversation and fellowship with other congregation members. Just because we can't gather this year around the same table doesn't mean we can't spend time together. Let us share our joy in one another's company. Hope to see you then. So I'll be here, and anyone who lives here, Shubra will be away, but Jyoti may be here on Thanksgiving Day, so there may be the two of us on this side of the screen. In any event, we hope that you will be on the other side of the screen at least some of the time during that 4 o'clock to 5:30 online gathering. So we have had our opening chant. There is no song this morning. Again, welcome. November is a month for the study of Raja Yoga, a spiritual path often called the yoga of meditation. As a Raja Yogi, you use ancient, proven spiritual techniques to quiet your mind and gain control of your attention. Regular daily practice of Raja Yoga increases your ability to concentrate, and that's a promise. If you do indeed practice the limbs of yoga as taught by Patanjali, it will increase your ability to concentrate and may lead to meditation. This can unite you with the divine presence, the source of your being, and liberate you from the cycle of rebirth and death. Raja Yogis call this state of liberation kaivalya, independence, being independent of all time, space, and causation. This morning's topic, in the spirit of the season and the upcoming holiday, is giving thanks. America's beloved holiday of Thanksgiving is less than a week away. This morning we will talk about giving thanks as a spiritual practice. Here are some thoughts from Henry David Thoreau, a 19th century American spiritual teacher. Thoreau offers us a practical kind of spirituality. So this begins the quote from Thoreau. Pursue some path, however narrow and crooked, in which you can walk with love and reverence. If you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams and endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in everyday circumstances. As a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path you walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Things do not change, we change. And this is such a deeply profound truth. It's the same truth taught by Swami Vivekananda. The universe does not change unless we change. If indeed we change, then the universe changes to reflect that. The universe we all share. This is why when we practice spiritual disciplines and become a different and a higher kind of human being, it actually has a very beneficial effect in the universe. We become a beacon of light. The practice of greater kindness and compassion, now that's the end of the quote, as things do not change, we change. That's the end of the quote from Thoreau. The practice of greater kindness and compassion is a beneficial way to change. There is so much need for it. As we give our thanks in that way, and thereby offer this troubled world one more beacon of light and sanity, we can keep this in mind. And here's a little something to help us focus on what the need is in the world. It's from Mark Twain. The observance of Thanksgiving Day as a function has become general of late years. The thankfulness is not so general. This is natural. 2/3 of the nation have always had hard luck and a hard time during the year, and this has a calming effect on their enthusiasm. And that's from Mark Twain's book, Following the Equator, published in 1897. When he says 2/3 of the nation have always had hard luck and a hard time during the year, if we study the statistics about what's going on right now, he is absolutely a prophet. There is much need for our kindness, compassion, and our thankfulness for who and what we are in this given situation. So from what place within yourself can you be a sharing, thankful person? As we hear in this chant, there is a great silence at the center of your being, yet it is not an empty silence. It is full, Purna. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnameva Advishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, our outer world is full with divine consciousness. Our inner world is also full with divine consciousness. From the fullness of divine consciousness, our universe is manifested. Taking fullness from fullness alone, taking fullness from fullness, fullness alone remains indeed, because divine consciousness is primary, not plural and infinite. Om, peace, peace, peace. Those of you who know Sanskrit, please pardon me for butchering the chant, but I do the best I can. This fullness is what Jesus meant when he said, "Be ye perfect, full, complete, as your Father in heaven is perfect." And it's why he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. So putting the horse before the cart, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you, rather than seeking for all those things you want to be added unto you, and as an afterthought, seeking the kingdom of God. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna said the same thing. The goal of human life is to know God. And Vivekananda, we're very familiar with what Vivekananda said. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest that divinity. So we can be deeply thankful that we are seeking this morning. The reason, one very important reason we can be thankful, is that you and I are blessed with these three graces. First, human birth. It is said to be a great grace to achieve human birth. So we have that grace. What are we to do with it? Those of us who are here this morning, clearly we are seeking. And that shows that there is in us the second grace, the desire to be free of bondage. We can call it what we will, salvation, liberation, kaivalya, whatever we call it. It is a great grace. It is a great gift, the desire to be free of bondage. And the third grace is the gift of a qualified teacher. Now, by a qualified teacher, I mean a Ramakrishna, a Christ, a Buddha. They're the ones who come to the world, and of course, I include in that Krishna. They come to the world for no other reason than to be the qualified teacher to answer to our gift of human birth and our desire to be free. So we can believe that those three graces are a great reason for gratitude. Each of you who thoughtfully determines what deserves your attention and then sets your priorities to match what you have determined is walking a path toward discovering the great silence, achieving spiritual fulfillment, and the promise of the three graces. As you walk that path, you change. It is inevitable. As you move toward the shining light you are drawn to in the East, the land of your second birth, you are automatically leaving behind the things of the West, that land of monotonous repetition, misery, stagnation, and rebirth and death. Is this not a reason for great gratitude? Even if the beginning of your even if the beginning of your spiritual journey has been mapped out in cooperation with a guru, that spiritual path is still unique because you are unique. As you work the instructions that the guru gave you, slowly and slowly you make it your own. It may take a couple of years for you working the instructions given by a physical guru like Swami Sarvadevananda. But slowly and slowly you make it your own by adding to it, by slightly modifying it to suit your particular personality and circumstances. Nevertheless, it is a great grace and a gift that you receive those instructions. If you are moving ahead as a Raja Yogi, you discover that your spiritual path with its daily practice of the restraints and observances taught by Patanjali, is a stand you are taking. You might say something like this to yourself: through study and reflection, I have come to believe these things about myself and the world. They were different than the things that you believed before you began that study and reflection. And so you might say to yourself, therefore, as best I can, I will think, speak, and act in accordance with those beliefs. As best I can, I will think, speak, and act in accordance with those beliefs. That's a stand you take. After some years of practice, you may find you are nothing other than that great silence at the center of your being. That is the discovery of the Raja Yogi. What Swami Vivekananda said, when there are no more vrittis, no more mental modifications, no more vibrations in the mind stuff, when there are no more vrittis in the citta, your universe of time, space, and causation disappears and is replaced by that great silence. So I'm going to repeat that. After some years of practice as a Raja Yogi, you may find you are nothing other than that great silence at the center of your being. On the other hand, let's say you aspire to be a Vijnani, a spiritual seeker who accepts both the world of matter and the realm of spirit as real. In this state of mind, you continuously insist to yourself that no matter how things appear to you in the moment, everything is in fact full of consciousness. It is Brahman. In time, you may find your life is full of bliss, that you have become Purna, full, complete. Or perhaps you practice as a Jnani, someone who takes the stand that God, or Brahman, alone is real, and the universe of your everyday experience is illusory. What does illusory mean? It means it's constantly changing. Your moment-to-moment watchwords are discrimination, or discernment, and renunciation, or release. Discernment of that which is temporary, changing, and so discerning that and releasing that. The practice in Sanskrit is neti neti, not this, not that. This and that do not meet your test of truth, so you let them go. Over time as a Jnani, you gain perfect peace of mind. Nothing can disturb your yoga. Or maybe you lead the active life of a karma yogi, one who strives to do every action in a spirit of selflessness. You take the stand that everything you are and do belongs to the divine presence, and so offer all that to the Lord. The results of your actions are then received. The results of your actions and your thoughts are then received as gifts from the divine, prasad. And so you have no attachment to those results. By the grace of long practice, you may come to think of yourself as a small, contented wave on the vast ocean of being. And then there are the bhaktas, those whose practice is love and devotion. As a bhakta, you see God as your master, or as a loving mother, or father, or friend. You take the stand that God is your sustainer, provider, and protector, the life of your life, your all in all. In time, your heart's aching desire is to know your beloveds, know your, in time, your heart's aching desire to know your beloved intimately is fulfilled. You see and speak with her or him face to face. So that's a good place to stop, I think. It's almost the half hour. It's a good place to stop and review through your questions and comments what's been said and anything that you would like to add to the conversation from your perspective. This is how we do this together, or any questions or doubts that you may have that want to be expressed as a question. Anything at all from anyone about what's been said so far?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, please.
It seems to me that the four yogas, you can do almost all of them at the same time. Is that, there's nuances of how they're different, but it seems like you could be devoted, that you could, do all of those things simultaneously. Is that a possibility?
Right. Not only a possibility, but a suggestion from Vivekananda. As he put it, each soul is potentially divine. That is to say, it exists in us like a current, like electricity in a battery. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest that divinity. Do this by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, one or more of or all of these, one or more or all of these, and be free. So Dennis, you've nailed it. Yes, you can embody all of this. The principles are and practices are very much cooperative. That's why recently there was a talk on your Karma Raja cocktail. How to combine those two. It's so easy to combine karma and raja. So very, very well said. There's no reason to restrict yourself, but some people do indeed see themselves more as one thing than another, which is why I pointed to each of them individually. But you're absolutely right, and thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Jai Ma. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I heard or understood this correctly, but you said after a couple of years of following the Guru's instruction, you can make it your own and add to the instructions. So how do we do that? Because I think we are told not to change anything. So do we have to?
Well, haven't you been reading other books?
Oh,
Haven't you been listening to other teachers?
right.
This is exactly what I'm talking
Okay.
about. You listen often, I notice, Sarva Priyananda and to others. They add things to what Swami Sarvadevananda gave you, and inevitably those will inflect your practice, and it should inflect your practice. The core will always be what the Swami gave you at Diksha. But over time, you may actually go back to the Swami, as I did to Swami Swahananda, and say, Swami, because of some experiences I'd had, I said, Swami, I would like to add mother to my mantra. And so he spontaneously and within just moments gave me a new mantra. And that very much inflected my practice.
Thank
And
you.
led to things like the regular recitation of the Chandi hymns and so on, which were not part of my instructions, either from Swami Prabhavananda when he accepted me as a disciple, or from Swami Swahananda when he gave me Diksha. So we evolve because we're unique. We must evolve into our uniqueness. Thank you for asking that question. I'm sure it was on some other people's minds as well.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Anything else? This is good. This is doing this together. Okay. If everyone's content that they're up to speed on where we've come so far. So now, specifically about giving thanks. Our love of celebrating gratefully together, as we do on Thanksgiving Day, seems to be built into us. It is part of the fabric of being human. Let's take a look at this grateful holiday spirit and what its joyous impulse can offer us as seekers of freedom and truth. Now, some of you will know the name Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson is a great singer-songwriter. He's identified with the country and Western tradition, but he's far greater than that, far more than that. And one of the best singers and guitarists in his field. He is utterly unique, and for many years, by his own confession, he was very self-centered. He did what he did so very, very well, but he concerned himself with primarily worldly things. This is what he said. When I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. When he began to see that what he had become and how he had become it as a great blessing, all of it, including the fact that at one time he tried to commit suicide by lying down in the middle of the street in Nashville. When I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. And of course, he's made lots of money, and he's given away lots of his own money. But over decades, Willie Nelson has helped raise, through his efforts, there was one, and I think it's probably no longer going on, but it went on for a great long time. It was called Farm Aid. Over decades, Willie Nelson has helped raise hundreds of millions of dollars to support farmers and others in need. So this is one example of someone that may be known to us. And what happened to him when he began to be, rather than self-centered, other-centered, and grateful for the blessings he had received. Another person that we all know the name, I'm sure, is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is an internationally known personality, a TV star. She's also a seeker and teacher of spiritual truths. Many people don't know it, but she occasionally visits the temple in Santa Barbara, in Montecito, because she has a home there. and the nuns know her, but it's kept very quiet because they don't want curiosity seekers trying to find Oprah there. So Oprah Winfrey. Here's a quote from Oprah Winfrey. Be thankful for what you have. You will end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. And I think we all have known people in our lives and may even see some in public life that take that attitude. They concentrate on what they don't have and are constantly grasping for what they don't have. And so they never, ever have enough. The Buddhists call them hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts. Lonely like a ghost, lonely to the point of desperation, trying to fill an empty hole that cannot be filled. So here's Oprah Winfrey, this famous person, seeker and teacher of spiritual truth. Oprah Winfrey gives away millions of dollars every year out of the money that she earns. And she, of course, she earns millions. But she gives away millions every year to support worthy causes and people who are in want. Sure, she famously gives away cars sometimes to everyone in her studio audience, all that kind of thing. But that's just a stunt. That's just showbiz personality stuff. She can do it. She can afford it. It's no big deal. But behind the scenes, she's giving away much, much more. One of the great thinkers of the 20th century is Albert Einstein. He was a great physicist and philosopher, and he offers us this wisdom. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. And he, of course, was in that second camp. He was constantly in love with the miracles that happened around him. Not just the discoveries that he made, but the discoveries that others made. And sometimes they horrified him. The findings of quantum physicists led him to say, I can't believe that God plays dice with the universe, because the findings of quantum physics are that the universe is not deterministic, as Newton thought it was, but probabilistic, so Einstein wrestled with that idea for the rest of his life, but not in a negative sense. He just, as a philosopher and physicist, tried to figure out, how can this possibly be true? So through that wonderful attitude he had and its expression in his behavior, he made many wonderful discoveries. So in the terms that Einstein is defined for us, is your life a miracle? Here's the story that you may be familiar with already. It's been told before. Here's a story from the biography of the late Thomas Merton. Merton was a Trappist monk who became a world-renowned spiritual teacher. And this is something that happened to him on March 18th, 1958, on the corner of 4th Street and Walnut Street in Louisville, Kentucky. He had this vision at that moment, in that place, March 18th, 1958, in the afternoon, corner of 4th and Walnut Streets, Louisville, Kentucky. This was his vision, quote, "In the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. It is a glorious destiny to be a member of the human race. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun." Now, just so that you have the opportunity to assimilate this, I'm going to read again what he said. "In the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. It is a glorious destiny to be a member of the human race. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun." In Thomas Merton's experience, each of you sitting there this morning is shining like the sun. Why? Because you are an embodiment of the divine presence, that great silence that is radiant, effulgent, purna, full. So before I close with a prayer, two prayers. First, one that's part of the talk, and then our regular prayer. There's time. Let's see if there's anything else anyone wants to say or ask about what's been talked about, what's been said this morning. Anything at all from anyone. This is how we do this together. It's the best part. Anything?
Brother Shankar?
Yes, Bhagarat.
Many times people from India claim, and rightfully so, that there is something in the soil of India to create saints and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
But the corollary is equally true for United States. It's a soil where people generously give also. The spirit of giving is very distinct in Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And that has generated so many people. And you give 2 or 3 examples, but there are several of them. Because to give and to share what you have is a part of the very culture of Christianity, the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Having said that, I was thinking that if you do not give anything, suppose you hoard, suppose you keep everything that you have in your own possessions,
Mm-hmm.
suppose you never say thanks to anyone, although that person has done it tremendously good to you, then the goodness continues to thrive, but nevertheless, it is diminished.
Mm-hmm.
So for the sake of propagation, to be thankful to something which you have received is a part of our responsibility, not goodness. It's a part of our responsibility so that the good continues. Because when you do not express your thanks for something which you got in your life without asking for it, that means you are creating a spirit of negativity.
Mhm.
You are going to hurt the noble cause lying within humanity to help others.
Mhm.
You are going to cause that the world is going to be that much diminished by your hoarding your praises, thanks, or whatever it is. Now, a couple of examples that you gave, I wanted to share also. That, for example, Woodruff, who is very well known, not only in terms of Emory, but one of the greatest philanthropists that we have. But
Mhm.
he had a distinct requirement that if you ask for a donation, I would not give you even a nickel.
Mhm.
If I want to give, I will give of my own. So it happened that about 100, 200 miles from here in Atlanta, in a small town, there was a storm and the church fell down and it needed to be reconstructed. They did not have the money. They thought of Woodruff. But if they asked Woodruff, then they would not get a penny. So they just managed to let Woodruff know that the church needs to be renovated and there is no money.
Mhm.
So they got an anonymous gift of something 100 billion or 50 million or whatever it was. And they knew it came from Woodruff.
Mhm.
But they cannot thank him because he doesn't want to be recognized as a donor.
Mhm.
So they wrote a letter of thanks to God that it was your place and you renovated again. And we want to thank you, God, for keeping our church functioning. And then they sent a copy of that letter to Woodruff. So this is exactly what we say in Sanskrit. What the right hand gives, the left hand should not know.
Yes. Well, I think some of you have heard me tell it. What a wonderful story, Bhagirath, and right on the money here. Not to make a pun, but I think some of you have heard me tell the story that at one time I was serving in the communications department of a place called home. It started out as a simple after-school program and became much, much more for the Black and brown communities of the ghetto and barrio in South Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles. At one time, after it had been started by this woman, Deborah Constance, with her own money, she cashed in her 401k and started this place with her own money. They had outgrown their facilities, and because this had gained the attention of some newspaper reporters, it was reported in the local newspapers, Los Angeles Times and so on, that a place called home had outgrown its quarters. This was long before I came to work there. Well, it wasn't long before they received a check for $50,000 to help them move to larger quarters. They had no idea who it came from because the donor did not want to be recognized. Over time, they came to know, because the checks kept coming, they came to know it was Johnny Carson, the TV personality Johnny Carson. And he ultimately gave them a check for when they needed really to expand and build new facilities. He gave them a check for $1 million. And in this instance, he came and gave the money to him, to Deborah Constance, hand to hand. but still did not want any recognition or publicity for it. And so he ended up giving a place called home many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars before he gave them the million. And all that, except for people like myself telling the story now, died with him. It was never known. The organization that he set up to do that kind of anonymous funding continues to function from the foundation he set up, still completely anonymous. So this is, and again, people didn't know to ask him for money. He had people constantly watching the newspapers for worthy causes that needed money. Now, each of us can do something similar in our own lives, even if we don't have any substantial amount of money to give away. We can, the wonderful phrase is, pay it forward. Thank you, Bhagarat, for bringing that. Anything else from anyone?
You know, I've just been thinking a lot about the history of Christianity and its role in India, which makes it both, I mean, it's easy to see the principles of how Hinduism and Christianity align, but so much of Swamiji's critique was of, you know, the Western civilizing mission in India. I think of his essay that he gave at one of his addresses at the World Parliament of Religions, where he says, Christians must always be ready for good criticism, and I hardly think you will mind if I make a little criticism. You Christians who are so fond of sending out missionaries to save the soul of the heathen, why do you not try to save their bodies from starvation? In India, during the terrible famines, thousands died from hunger, yet you Christians did nothing. You erect churches all through India, but the crying evil in the East is not religion. They have religion enough, but it is the bread that the suffering millions of burning India cry out for with their parched throats. They ask us for bread, but we give them stones. I just, you know, Thanksgiving for me is just that memory.
Well, we can remember what Swamiji said without thinking of Thanksgiving as practiced here as a Christian holiday. It's your holiday to celebrate as you see fit, and it's Swamiji and his criticisms were completely justified. But there is the story of Premananda and Jagannath and Sri Ramakrishna as well. So it's best to keep a balance in both hands. That we think of Thanksgiving not in some other context than what we can do and be to give thanks on that day. And if you're holding thoughts of animosity toward others, that only diminishes your experience of it. It's not that you're wrong, it's just not perhaps the most auspicious way to think of the holiday.
Oh, no. I was just thinking of Vivekananda and, you know, his reason, so much of his reason for being here.
Yes.
And it wasn't animosity. He was just pointing out, I think, the principle behind giving thanks, you know, sincerity. And what we can do, I think, all of us, just being a better person is not just in the individual sense. In India, it's a communal society. And I think Swamiji's principles, and this was a communal society of Native Americans, you know, who are the very reason why we celebrate Thanksgiving. So gratitude for these civilizations that have sustained us through time, all civilizations.
Well, what I'm suggesting, Divya, and all of what you've said is true, but what I'm suggesting is that we detach Thanksgiving from all of its historical contexts and hold it in our hearts as a way to prompt us to gratitude and thanksgiving at this time and in whatever way we're prompted to. That's the reason for this talk, you could say. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Divya. That
I'll
was
make
good.
a comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Tom, good.
Okay, so let's see how to say this. It seems to me, looking at my own life and my own experience, that it's very difficult for me to make myself happy. But if I'm focused on other people and making other people happy, I almost inevitably become happy. And I remember this, like in one of the, maybe the most difficult time in my life was after Catherine died.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never really suicidal, but I definitely questioned why I wanted to go on living.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like I would never experience happiness again. And then I thought, well, so I'm never going to be happy again. I'm just going to be miserable the rest of my life. But the reason to keep living is that maybe I can make somebody else happy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made that shift, then things started to lighten up and I became more happy. And I have a history of going through dark moods. And that now seems to be the solution, is to just quit focusing on myself and start focusing on making other people happy. And that shifts everything. And I'm not a real generous person. It's not like I spend my whole life as a do-gooder doing service, but it's just thinking that way. When I just start to think of doing good for other people, and I do a little bit of good, that shifts everything. So, but one other thing is that if I try to do it to make myself happy, it doesn't work.
No.
It only works if I'm doing it because I think it's a subtle thing. It's hard to put into words.
Oh, no, I think everyone understands what you're saying, Tom.
It's just
I
something.
think everyone understands what.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, and very well said. Very well said, and particularly that end. If there's a self-reference, if it's self-referring in any way, then it's self-defeating. It won't make you happy. It won't lift you up if you're trying to do it to make yourself happy, which is the inner teaching of Willie Nelson's. When I began to count my blessings, my whole life turned around. And so, and it's also the secret of the teachings of karma yoga is given to us by Sri Krishna. Anything? Yes, please, dear.
I was thinking of Krishna's Bhagavad Gita, which suggests 4 ways to approach God. And we all know the names: bhakti, devotion; karma, action; Raja Yoga, mind control or psychic control, the way he puts it. But I think why he expanded each one into several chapters is just to draw out the complete philosophy underneath each one. What is bhakti? What is karma? What is yoga? And to me, in practical life, particularly in the context of Thanksgiving, I think it's a harmonious whole. Its spirituality, to me, is a ride toward that Purnam, that completeness, that wholeness of being.
Yes.
And just for me, I simplified bhakti as heart approach,
Mhm.
approach of the heart, emotion, pure emotion. Then karma as hands that do something actual, materialize it, whatever you're thinking or feeling, by doing something good, selfless, unselfish. So that's hands, bhakti's heart, and Raj Yoga is mind control. So when all these come together, that's why it's called yoga. Unless all these aspects of our life are not aligned, we cannot become that one whole person. And spirituality to me is becoming whole. When we all unite these aspects and not divide them in stereotype compartments.
Well,
But
you're absolutely right, Uma. And it's so interesting that on the screen here, you are sitting next to Dennis, who said the very similar thing, that these should not be compartmentalized. They should be practiced together. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They must not be compartmentalized. They're not meant to be compartmentalized. We are not, though you gave some categories: heart, hands, head. They're not. They're all part of one unit.
yes.
In the film Zorba the Greek, Zorba is asked, "Zorba, what work do you do?" Zorba says, "Work? Head, hands, feet, they do the work. Who the hell am I to choose?"
Yeah.
So it's all one unit in function. So thank you for pointing that out. And I do think it's interesting that you and Dennis are sitting right next to one another on the screen here. Anything else from anyone? This is wonderful. This is beautiful.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Swayam.
I wanted to say that I think Tom did a lot of good today by sharing his story and thoughts in such a frank and open manner.
Yes.
And I'm certainly thankful for that. And I was going to say, like, some of us don't get these big revelations that, some of the others you mentioned had, but the little things as we go day to day through our life, suddenly we remember, like when I'm cooking, that somebody gave me this recipe that improved my cooking, or they suggested a book that gave answers to something I was dealing with, or, so many little acts of kindness that I have collected from others through life, and hopefully I've reciprocated, that make this garland of thankfulness that we can, give to each other.
Yes.
So I think I get a lot of these thankful moments in life, for which I'm thankful.
Oh, yes, 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 indeed. And of course, those big names were pointed to only because we all know those names and can see that these are people who, they could be very selfish and hoarding, but they're just the opposite because of their attitude toward themselves and the world. Anything else from anyone?
Yes. And the thing about living as if everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle, it's about, it's about awareness. And what Swayam was just saying about just something coming up when you're in the middle of doing something like cooking. This recipe came from my friend, and you feel this gratitude. It's an awareness of your connection to things outside of yourself. Well, they aren't outside, but they are, but they aren't. And I hate to say this, but for the sake of honesty about quotes, Einstein did not actually say that.
Oh, shoot.
That quote, no, but it's okay, because that quote is what the experts call a Neinstein, because a lot of quotes are attributed to Einstein that he didn't say. But it's still a wonderful quote. So you were saying about, these mentioning things that these famous people had said. In fact, they don't know who said it, the quote hunters, but they do know there's absolutely no evidence anywhere that Einstein ever said it. But it's just, it reminds me of an actual quote from Dan Millman, who wrote a series of books, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior and some other things. But one of the characters in it says, there are no ordinary moments. There is never nothing going on. And it's just a matter of your awareness. And if that awareness is coupled with just a little bit of awe and wonder, then there's also the gratitude just kind of naturally comes up, I think. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Just to-
Well, I'll disattribute that from Einstein and just say it's a good quote, and maybe I'll find something else that he did say.
Okay.
Or somebody else. There are lots of people to quote.
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
I just want to, first of all, thank you and the team for offering us this great spiritual journey, in touch with ourselves to see God and to be free. That's number one. I wanted to do it. It is that time of the year we thank people who make such a great difference in our lives. And the next, I think everything is a miracle, I believe. Last week, I was listening to this, a course in miracles. Number one, there are two courses. I just listened to one course. Then I realized everything is a miracle. That course on YouTube is like very robotic, but it's really, really good. If anybody wants to listen to that, it's a free 1.5 hour or 1 hour course. There are two courses. And when you listen to it, then it looks like everything is a miracle. Our presence in this world is a miracle. Every day, things happening seems to be a miracle to me. Just wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you so very much, Haima.
And the time of giving, the famous hallmark words, giving is gathering. You give one time, you gather 10 times, probably more than that. It doesn't have to be monetary giving. It can be a word of thanks, word of kindness, or compassion, and we get it abundantly in return. I experienced that in my life. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Haima.
Thanks
Yeah,
everyone here for all the good spiritual sharings, and I gained so much wisdom in the past 2 years with all of you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, dear.
Thank
Anything else from anyone?
Shankara?
Yes, Lori.
I'd just like to mention something that Einstein did. He helped found the International Rescue Committee, which does wonderful work with refugees all over the world. So,
I wasn't aware of that. Thank you. Yeah, Einstein was a good guy. He wasn't just a good physicist. He was a good guy. Thank you, Lori. International Rescue Committee. Anything else?
Hi, I wanted to say one thing.
Yes, Marla.
Because Thanksgiving does, as a holiday, does have a troubled history to it. I do like to focus during this time of thinking about, and it is Native American Heritage Month. November is that. I do like to think about how within Native American culture that, giving thanks is just woven into the very fabric of every action and the whole day. Getting up in the morning and saying thank you to the sun, thank you to the sky, thank you to the earth, thank you to the food, the plants and the animals that, brought that food to you. So I like to focus also on, that as part of the Thanksgiving holiday tradition.
Thank you. Exactly. And of course, the Native American peoples do have a lot of wisdom to offer us.
Yes.
As do the Celts.
They do the same
And
thing.
so I'm going to end today's talk with this prayer from the Celts. It's a Scottish blessing found in the book Celtic Prayers and Blessings. May the blessing of light be on you, light without and light within. May the blessed sunlight shine on you like a great peat fire. May the blessed sunlight shine on you like a great peat fire, so that stranger and friend may come and warm himself at it. And may light shine out of the eyes of you like a candle set in the window of a house,
Wow.
bidding the wanderer come in out of the storm. And now may the Lord bless you and bless you kindly. Amen. I'm going to read that again. This is from Celtic Prayers and Blessings. May the blessings of light be on you, light without and light within. May the blessed sunlight shine on you like a great peat fire, so that stranger and friend may come and warm himself at it. And may light shine out of the two eyes of you like a candle set in the window of a house, bidding the wanderer come in out of the storm. And now may the Lord bless you and bless you kindly. Amen. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. May this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. So, any final thoughts from anyone? All right, watch your e-news during the coming weeks.
Shankara.
Yes, dear.
Yes. On behalf of all of us, I want to truly, truly be grateful, not only thankful for our beautiful Vedanta sessions, Sunday after Sunday, but particularly today. And the thoughts that have been generated here, they go long way. I should say this session is rich. This session is not only thought-provoking, it is thought-purifying.
Ah,
And I'm grateful to you.
Jai
For
Ma,
all our participants.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma. So, thank you, Uma, for that. Anything else from anyone before we go? All right, dears. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May you go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So until tomorrow evening, for those of you who choose to join us for the reading and discussion group on love poems from God, or Tuesday evening when we study at 8 o'clock when we study Holy Mother's life, or Wednesday evening when we study Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. Those are the next opportunities to sit together like this. So a great good day to you. May this holiday season, this season of holy days, so many different traditions have holy days around this time of year. So may these holy days be a blessing to us all. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, thank
Hari
you.
Om.
Hari Om.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.